The public expectation from ministerial appointees at the federal level is to deliver the dividends of democracy through laudable policy initiatives, programs, and projects that will transform the socio-economic fortunes of Nigeria. Because government is a continuum, our responsibility on the minister's platform is to keep Nigerians abreast with the progress report so far. Let's talk about governance at the ministerial level on the minister's platform once again. You're welcome. It's time to share with you fresh news update from across federal ministries, agencies, and parastatals on Ministry News. The Federal Executive Council (FEC) on Wednesday approved contracts worth 10.48 billion naira and $27.09 million respectively for the Federal Ministry of Power for the power sector. The Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliyu, while briefing State House journalists after the weekly council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari, said the contracts are for the purchase of major electricity transmission equipment that will further boost electricity supply across the country. The contracts are also for the procurement of 2 sets of power transformers, the construction of a transmission line in Kebbi State. The minister expressed optimism that the Presidential Power Initiative (PPI) remains on course to deliver on incremental power supply despite the setbacks with the Siemens power deal and sabotage on power infrastructure.
2 components, offshore and the onshore. The offshore is $25.8 million and the onshore is 10.2 billion naira.
The Federal Executive Council (FEC) has started the process of concessioning the Ajaokuta Steel Company and the Nation Iron Ore Mining Complex in Itakpe, both in Kogi State. In view of this, FEC has approved contracts worth 853 million naira for the revitalization and operation of both companies. The Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, who reported the approval granted by Council for the Ajaokuta and Itakpe Company, said the contract were about appointing contractors that would run the process of concessioning the companies. The minister said Council's decision was in response to one of the 2 memoranda presented by the Federal Ministry of Mines and Steel Development.
We believe that with this development would have made significant steps in bringing back to life both the Ajaokuta Steel Complex and the Iron Ore Company in Itakpe, and fast forward the industrial evolution of Nigeria.
The federal government has disclosed that the Badagry seaport is estimated to generate about $2.6 billion and create 5,000 direct and indirect jobs when operational. The Acting Director General, Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission (ICRC), Mr. Michael Ohiani, said this in Abuja when he and his team presented the full business case compliance certificate for the Badagry Deep Sea Port and the modular floating dock to the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi. Responding, the Minister of Transportation thanks the ICRC for its diligence, noting that the presentation reflected that the project was financially viable. He further noted that the ministry would write to the Federal Executive Council for approval on the projects. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Isa Ali Ibrahim Pantami, has asked a global ICT center for the training of Nigerians and Africans. The minister disclosed this during the kickoff of the implementation of the federal government and UAE Memorandum of Understanding aimed at providing ICT skills to Nigerian youths in Abuja. Professor Pantami also stated that the implementation of the MOU will see more than 100,000 Nigerians benefiting from the initiative beyond the agreement.
Our regulation is a developmental regulation. That adjective developmental has been attached to regulation in order to show that our purpose, our vision is to regulate the sector that will promote development, not in any way to restrict it unnecessarily or jeopardize it.
The federal government has shortlisted 18 preferred bidders for the concession of 12 federal highways under the Highway Development and Management Initiative (HDMI). The highways, which represents 1,963 kilometers of Nigeria's 35,000 kilometers federal highways, include Benin-Asaba, Abuja-Lokoja, Kano-Katsina, Onitsha-Owerri, Aba, Shagamu, Benin, and Abuja-Kefi-Akwanga highways, amongst others. In a statement in Abuja, the Special Advisor on Communications to the Minister of Works and Housing, Akim Bello, stated that the value-added concession request for proposal evaluation report was presented and approved on April 21st, 2022 at the project's steering committee meeting chaired by the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola. The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Defense, Ibrahim Kana, has said the federal government had concluded plans to create a brand new Ministry of Defense with a view to repositioning the sector. Mr. Kana, who gave the hint when he paid a familiarization visit to the Army headquarters on Wednesday in Abuja, said his appointment by the President came with a mandate to implement the approved reform of the ministry and armed forces to enhance efficiency. He further added that when created, the new Defense Ministry will see the various services operating under the same roof in a Pentagon-like style, where both military and civilian staff will be working together. He, however, pledged to work with the Army Chief to develop ways to move the Nigerian Army to greater heights. And still on defense matters, the Minister of Defense, Major General Bashiru Salihi Magashi, retired, has visited a proposed facility for the Nigerian Army in Kuje along the Airport Road, Abuja. Conducting the ministry around the facility, the Executive Director of Vaxhorn Engineering Limited, Barrister Collins Aimuan, said the facility has 5 separate factory houses, with each comprising a production line, an office and residential accommodation, storage facilities, and an expanse of land for future development. The factories are for Pampers, parts, panty liner, textile, plastic bottles, as well as laboratory for recycling purpose. The Permanent Secretary and other key defense officials were on the entourage of the Minister of Defense. And finally, on ministry news, the federal government, through its National Homegrown Feeding Program, had fed 64,301 pupils, donated 20,000 utensils, engaged 762 cooks in 561 benefiting schools across Ebonyi State. The Minister of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk, represented at the handover ceremony by a Special Assistant on Administration, Ingene Kingsley Bash, stated that over 9 million pupils on the program were being fed by over 100,000 cooks as employment was being created through the scheme. She, however, appealed to the benefiting schools to put the utensils to use so that the pupils would benefit more.
The Homegrown School Feeding Program is one of the 4 key interventions of federal government under the National Social Investment Program, which seeks to boost school enrollment, nutrition and local economy activities in thousands of communities across the nation.
From the presidency comes latest news developments from the office of Mr. President. President Muhammadu Buhari, during an iftar organized for members of the diplomatic corps, has warned anyone making plans to rig the 2023 elections, promising that he will ensure that the will of Nigerians prevail. The president also advised foreign observers to be cautious about their positions during the elections in order to avoid bias.
Those planning to rig the forthcoming election should think twice, because I intend to resolutely protect and defend the sacred will of the Nigerian people to be expressed through the ballot box. The United Nations must continue to actively lead the way for engagements that could ultimately unlock peace through diplomacy.
President Muhammadu Buhari Thursday told a federal high court in Abuja that he did not order the Senate to remove the contentious Section 84, subsection 12 from the amended Electoral Act 2022, contrary to claims of the opposition, PDP, in a suit filed against him and 12 others. The president said they only expressed reservations and concerns in respect of the aspect of the Electoral Act. The president's position was contained in a counter affidavit filed at the Federal High Court at the instance of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami. President Muhammadu Buhari has assented to the bill establishing the Federal Polytechnic, Orogun, Delta State. The institution is one of the 3 polytechnics recently approved by the government. The bill for the establishment of the Polytechnic was sponsored by the Deputy Senate Speaker, Senator Ovie Omoagege, representing Delta Central Senatorial District. The new institution will provide full and part-time courses of instruction and training in different fields of study with a view to producing middle and high-level manpower. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the extension of the tenure of the Acting Controller General of Nigeria Immigration Service, Issa Idris Jere, the NIS boss, whose official retirement date was April 24, having attained the age of 60 as stipulated by civil service rules, will now continue to preside over the affairs of the agency for 1 more year following the latest development. And finally, from the presidency, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the appointment of Abdul Ganiu Jaji as the new Controller General of the Federal Fire Service with effect from April 22. Mr. Jaji, who was formerly the Deputy Controller General in charge of administration and supplies at the agency, is taking over from Acting Controller General Samson Karebo, who took up the mantle of leadership after former Controller General Ibrahim Liman bowed out of service. The Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs was a strategic ministry of necessity to fast-track developments in the Niger Delta region. The Minister of State for Niger Delta Affairs gives us an insight. What is the scope and policy thrust of the Niger Delta Development Master Plan?
The master plan for the Niger Delta is tailored towards improving the Niger Delta holistically, from education to agriculture to management of the oil resources to ensuring that funds available for development are felt by the people of the Niger Delta, to ensure that hospitals are built for the people, to ensure that their means of livelihood, fishing in particular, is promoted, and to ensure that the Niger Delta, being the citadel of the oil-rich nation we call Nigeria, also benefits as much as possible from the resources that are found on the ground of the Niger Delta, and to ensure that Niger Delta takes its place, not only among the states of Nigeria, but among the community of nations in the world as a whole.
A major challenge of this ministry is the enormous environmental degradation and pollution. And this is caused by hydrocarbon activities, for example, gas flaring, crude oil exportation, and of course, oil spillage. What have been the practical solutions of this ministry to address these challenges?
Well, we want to thank Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari, for ensuring that the Ogoni water and sea pollution is being addressed vigorously. All over the world, wherever there are hydrocarbon activities, there is likely to be pollution occurring from time to time. But the most important thing is, what do we have on ground to tackle this type of menace that goes with oil exploration? I think that is where the Niger Delta Master Plan will play a very strategic role. What we are doing as of today is like a fire brigade type of approach, to things like this. But when the master plan is well in place, there will be what we will call thinking ahead of the problem and how to tackle and ensure, if possible, erase this menace called pollution and degradation of the atmosphere and the ground of the Niger Delta. Niger Deltans don't have the ability to produce as much fish as they used to do in the past, because the pollution that is occurring all the time had almost killed all the fish. You now have to go deeper into the sea to be able to fish, to feed the people. But by the time all this is addressed, I think this will reduce. And like I said, we would like to thank President Muhammadu Buhari for at least trying as much as possible during this regime to ensure that what we met on ground, the pollution that was there, is being cleared.
But we've heard about sabotage, even by the people themselves, sabotaging oil plant. Can you give us update, really? There was a recent one in some of the oil communities, and how have you been able to address them?
I've always told my people that we're our enemies, we're the enemies of ourselves. Because if you know that something is injurious to your body and you continue to take that either food or drug or drink, then you are gradually killing yourself. You are not killing the doctor that is saying don't do it. You are not killing your neighbor that is watching you do this to yourself. I think our people should have a rethink. We don't have to bastardize the pipelines, to be able to make money and so on and so forth. It is not even that alone that people do. I could remember a few weeks ago, I asked my PA to contact our people. In those days, there is a factory that was to be put there. And we asked them, please contact the leadership of our people. Let them give us the site where this factory could be emplaced. The answer we got is that we should go and buy land. I was saying, why is this thing not being taken to my village, where the Oba of my town will call his chiefs and say, please give us the land where it is choice area for this plant to be put, because it's for the development of the people.
But have you been able to sanction saboteurs? Who you get?
It is difficult because it is only the military. The federal government has put the military, the army, the navy, and so on and so forth to ensure that this sabotaging is reduced. So government has hired local people to ensure that they work with our military to ensure that this sabotaging is reduced to the barest minimum, if not completely wiped out. But it depends on the attitude of our people. You can remember that in those good old days when people were being killed, were being shot at the Babish for stealing, for drug peddling, people were still carrying drugs. People were still, doing armed robbery. So it is the attitude of the people that really matters.
Recently, the Rivers State governor had to dole out some millions of naira to local government chairmen to identify illegal refineries. I know this also falls within the purview of the NNPC, but as a ministry being in charge, taking care of welfare of the people in the area, is there anywhere the ministry has also been able to make some frantic efforts to address illegal refineries? Because these same illegal refineries are also polluting the environment.
if the governor of River State decides to assist, those ministries and agencies, very fine, because there must be this synergy between state governments and the federal government to address the ills of the society.
Now, Honourable Minister, let's look at the challenges of the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs. We want you to help us to catalog specifically the major giant strides of this ministry under the President Muhammadu Buhari government.
The biggest challenge we have faced since I became minister here is lack of funds. When this ministry was created and when the Naira was really strong, this ministry started with a budget of 100 billion Naira. And over the years, it has come down to the level that in the year 2020, the total budget of this ministry was less than 20 billion Naira. And what can you do with 20 billion Naira in 9 states? And at the same time, the East-West Road, came back to the ministry, and there was no money to run it. A project that will cost close to $500 billion Naira, given to a ministry that has a budget of less than 20 billion Naira. And you will realize that most of the time there was agitation from the people who are the users of the roads, the Ogoni people, the Niger Delta youths, protesting all the time. Although we wanted to ensure that completion of the road was fast-tracked, but the contractors will not work without money. So the main constraint of this ministry is lack of funds. Other areas can be managed. In fact, that is why the ministry was created, to solve problems of the Niger Delta. So if there were problems and there was enough funds, of course, efforts would be made to resolve such problems.
Despite these challenges, we just want to know, what are those significant achievements this ministry has been able to achieve?
Over 150 kilometers of road had been tarred, have been paved. We also know that skill acquisition centers that we met, not completed, under completion, and so on and so forth, and those completed, we are also ensuring that they are put into use. By the time contracts were awarded for these skill acquisition centers, they were not really made as skill acquisition centers. A skill acquisition center where you will have a stadium, where you will have a swimming pool, where you will have hostels, and so on. That's not a skill acquisition center. So what we have decided to do is that those ones that are completed are given to communities, to states, to polytechnics, to universities, to use as campuses, so that the money that had been expended on this type of assets will not just be in waste. Also, the housing estates that were constructed by this ministry are now being given to stakeholders free of charge. Before, money was being charged, although very small amount of money, but when President Muhammadu Buhari came, he said the houses belong to them. They should be given the houses free of charge, and that is what we are doing now. We are also ensuring that all this degradation that we had mentioned earlier on, we are cooperating with the ministry in charge of ensuring that all these degradation are put into check. Also cooperating with the Ministry of Petroleum Resources to ensure that our people have what belongs to them. This ministry is even coordinating, is trying to coordinate now to ensure that the 3% that was asked to be given to the communities from the PIA are given to them. We are going to organize sensitization programs to make those people ready and be able to ask for their rights when the time comes. Because if you don't, the major oil companies are very fond of ensuring that they don't pay what is due from them. But we will make the people to realize that it is their right and that they should ask for it and also use it, whatever comes to them, properly.
The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, is our focus on our ministry, agencies, and parastatals in focus segment. Let's get to know facts about NAFDAC. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, is a federal agency under the Federal Ministry of Health. NAFDAC was established by Decree 15 of 1993 as amended by the Decree 19 of 1999, and now the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control (CAP N1) laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004. This act mandates NAFDAC to regulate and control the manufacture, importation, exportation, distribution, advertisement, sale and use of food, drugs, cosmetics, chemicals, detergents, medical devices and packaged water. The functions of NAFDAC include regulating and control the manufacture, importation, exportation, advertisement, distribution, sale and use of food, drugs, cosmetics, medical devices, chemicals and packaged water, conduct of appropriate tests, ensure compliance with standard specifications designated and approved by the Council for effective control of quality of products, undertake appropriate investigation into production premises, and establish a relevant quality assurance system, including certification of the production sites of the regulated products. The agency is currently headed by Mojisola Adeyeye. She was appointed on the 3rd of November 2017 by the President as the Director General of NAFDAC. The NAFDAC vision is to be a world-class regulator that ensures availability of quality and safe food, drugs, and other regulated products. And the NAFDAC mission is to protect and promote the public health by instituting an efficient regulatory system that ensures only the right quality food, drugs, and other regulated products are manufactured, exported, imported, advertised, distributed, sold, and used. The pride core values of the agency are professionalism, resilience, integrity, dedication, commitment, and finally, excellence.
The fact that there are no strict laws that governs or guides tenants.
For like 2 years now, and I have not seen one person ask me to pay 1 year.
Yeah. I like this city because of the job opportunities.
The first one is to create an enabling environment, as I've said. Secondly, where possible, let them sincerely find a way of introducing at least small margin of interest on loan for those that are ready to go into a kind of small businesses and have resources to fund those businesses. Those that are ready to go to farm, let government sincerely face this issue of security. They should work on taxation. They should please work on those, and there will be peace in the country.
Not all of us will work in an office. Government should create a kind of vocational skill, training them in terms of having their handwork. Having handwork will help a lot of youth.
To empower the youths, first is the NIG. If you have 12 hours power supply, I can assure you things will turn around. There will be employment everywhere, SMEs. Because the major driver of the economy is the SMEs. Number two, we're not a producing nation. We need to go back to production. Without production, you cannot empower. That's where the youth will be employed.
The plight of youth is in a sorry state. I believe government is doing their own bit. When the youth are not engaged in gainful employment, many things will set in. They should look at how the youth can be well engaged. Some of them have done vocational trainings. They should set them up. The ones that want to go to school, when they are out, let there be just for them.
If they can give out money, at least to empower the youth, it's better. And if they can provide jobs, because there's no job. So we need job, that's the thing.
On the Minister's platform, we put the right information in your hands to make informed judgment. Join us again next week. Thanks for watching.